So you are, how would you define your job title really? A UX designer or what would you
Um,
say?
so I help companies convert better online. So I was previously head of digital for a creative agency, and I kept seeing an opportunity with clients to sort of spend more time with them, helping them do what they're already doing, but enhancing it based on analytics. And that there are two sort of paths with that. One specialism area is paid social advertising, so helping companies to reach their desired audience through the likes of Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then when that traffic reaches their site, it's understanding that data better, and understanding what their audience is doing on their site, perhaps where they're losing customers that they're paying to drive to their site, or perhaps where, customers getting lost within content, and helping, trying to understand what they're trying to achieve
Yeah.
and helping them do that better. So whether that's more inquiries, more sales, that sort of thing.
So how did you get into that then?
Ah, that's a good question. It just sort of went up, sort of did the time, both in-house marketing and agency. I started with a startup about sort of 6 years ago, and that was a really interesting time. It was a startup wellness brand, and at the time, relatively small company. They now sell internationally, so we took their Instagram account, and we've almost got like sort of 30,000 followers now. Large proportion of the people that purchase on the site are subscribers. We put a subscription model in, that sort of thing, and it was that really that started me out. And sort of several years later, I then went to agency and ran a team there. But I think it got to the point where I just wanted to, you're managing a team and you're managing a number of accounts for different clients, and it kind of, you can lose that personal touch sometimes, and it
Yeah.
sort of wanted to go back to being able to spend more hands-on time with people, especially when I knew people like yourself in the industry, and like yourself, as a freelancer, you have a network of people that are quite often former heads of digital or SEO or paid social, and you can offer more time for a client, and quite often at half the rate. So,
Yeah.
no
I mean,
brainer, really.
I think that's what we've been discussing it a fair bit, especially with, following the lockdown, and we speak to agency owners and things like that. And I think we're actually in a much better position really than someone who has, sky high overheads and staff to pay for and that sort of stuff. And I'm sure, it's not all agencies that will be struggling, but, like I said, we speak to agency owners, and you're lucky to to kind of get anything back, even though you might have gigantic clients, but then they match how high your overheads are. Whereas, we work with, and I think, you're the same as me in that approach, is that you're speaking to the business owners themselves, and you're very involved in seeing those businesses grow. And, like you said, you're getting that personal touch, and you do feel much more personally invested in their growth because you can see what it means to them. It's not just some marketing manager who's being a dick on purpose just to kind of put all the blame on you. It is like you're literally dealing with the person who's, very often started a company from scratch or whatever. So yeah, I totally get you from there.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I wanted to pick your brains about really was, I guess anyone coming into this with a digital background who doesn't know much about UX, and I'm certainly one of those people. So it'd be
Yeah.
good to kind of like just for you to give an overview of what it actually is in terms of like what is the benefit for site owners, and then what's your approach to going around, like what would month one, for instance, look like as like an ongoing UX service?
Yeah. Well, UX, our sort of approach to UX is more around sort of conversion rate optimization. There are a couple of different forms, but our approach is about data analytics. So we kind of look at, the overall UX design. So UX is user experience, and that's that, the user's experience of your website. So how they're navigating that website, what's their sort of journey through your website, where are they converting, where are they not, where are they, and how can you optimize that? Now, like I said, our approach is more based around sort of user behavior. So we kind of look at data analytics, anything from Google Analytics to heat mapping, where we put like heat maps on the website, and we can navigate where literally the hot and cold areas of where people are converting or not, and also live user recording. So this is a really, really informative way of sort of showing businesses where there are opportunities to enhance what they're already doing, because quite often investing in a website redesign or a new website is really expensive. It can be, and quite often, it can be well worth it. But it's, I think one thing for me is it feels really important to do that properly. So we work with a lot of web design agencies as well as directly with businesses to help, produce websites that are well optimized, and to continue to track that. So companies have an option whether to do an initial audit of what's going on based on their existing site, or we can look at that on an ongoing basis. So we've got, once we've, certainly with the likes of heat mapping and live user recordings, we can put tracking in place so that we can track that for you every month if you want to review in your, to inform your marketing meetings and your strategy as well.
Cool. So is it how to say this? So like for that initial audit, is it like, how long would that usually take then if you're trying to get, say, especially like live recordings? Do you get that over a weekly period or something like that, and then you can kind of get an average view of how users would generally go about transacting on the site or whatever it might be?
Yeah, that's, how long's a piece of string sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of, on average, certainly for like an initial audit, it's over around about a week for like user recordings, and audits take anything between 1 to 3 days based on the requirements and deliverables. But if you were doing an ongoing audit, then we can take that month's data based on previous month's data and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I suppose it's that, we literally just speaking about it then of like, if you're looking to launch a new site, and quite often, people would consider things like content, but not from a strategic perspective. So just like, right, we need new content, let's write new content. But then that's when they might come to someone like me to do like composition analysis or a bit of keyword research or something like that. So it's a very similar thing for yourself, isn't it? It's like, right, we're going to get a new website, but they've got no data to inform why it's going to look the way it does. Why, I suppose it's even down to something as specific as what colour is this button, or where is it going to be on the page. And I suppose, is it quite surprising sometimes when even you make like quite slight changes, that you see like conversion rates shoot up?
Yeah, definitely. Even from adjusting the call to action on a homepage, what the text says within that button, and that varies across different businesses. There's never a one size fits all, approach, and that's kind of, I know it sounds a bit different, but that's kind of why we work with paid social as well, because both mediums, UX and paid social, Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, LinkedIn advertising, they all have testing capacities. So they kind of go hand in hand sometimes. Like, we can see what your data is doing on your website. We can see who's coming into your website from who you believe to be a desired market and who you'd like to reach. We can see that. Is there an opportunity to reach those people? And based on what we've done on your website and what's performed on your website, what call to action buttons, that sort of thing. And by that I mean, those sort of book now, inquiries, let's talk, whatever that is. We can then test that messaging in like a paid social advert. And then that can inform not only what you're doing from a paid ads perspective or website perspective, but it might inform SEO content as well. It might inform, blog content. It might inform just your marketing talk generally. We've got the ability to test that, test imagery, test headlines, which is pretty good. It feels like a more sort of an authentic approach.
I suppose as well, like, you can't deny the data. Like, the data's there. So, like, if you're not going to do something about it, one, they're paying you guys to find that data. So it'd be pretty stupid not to kind of jump on the back of it. So I've tried things like LinkedIn ads, and I think it's just way too expensive unless you have, like, big budget. So I guess for something more specific like LinkedIn, are there certain types of businesses that you see do much better? And then I guess the same for something like Instagram or Facebook. Generally, are there certain types of websites or businesses that do better on each platform?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely trends in that. LinkedIn advertising, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty expensive, and I think unless you've got a huge marketing budget, it's like one that it can be quite costly, but the rewards can be great as well. I think personally, Facebook is where it's at, especially at the moment. I think there's been a 70% increase in users using Facebook alone since the beginning of the lockdown, which is insane. And then plus you've got that coupled with the fact that a lot of industries have unfortunately had to cut back, due to marketing budgets. So you've got the likes of hospitality and sort of sectors and event sectors cutting back on adverts, which what that means is basically you've got your advertising spend, and normally you have, there's a queue of adverts waiting to sort of go live. You're bidding for different advertising space. If you've got different companies cutting back, your advertising budget is more likely to go a bit further.
Right.
Plus you've got that increase in users. So sort of Facebook, who obviously own Instagram as well. You've got cross marketing tool there, and you can switch it on, test which is working for your business better. Going back to your question, like about what sort of businesses do better on each platform. Generally, it's a bit of a sweeping statement, but LinkedIn is predominantly B2B businesses and benefit from LinkedIn marketing. And one of the really cool tools on LinkedIn advertising is not just the adverts that you see, sort of the ones that appear in your feed, or you've got something called direct mail advertising, so you can actually reach your demographic through a targeted message that reaches their inbox. I've seen clients do really well with that form of advertising. But for me, Facebook, Instagram advertising, certainly for e-commerce stores and service industries that are B2C, that is, can be a real sweet spot. I mean, we have one client, and they were only doing brand awareness campaigns with us initially, but we've been in a period of lockdown, and we put in a number of tests, A/B tests on sort of copy, imagery, targeting. You've got the Facebook pixel, which sort of allows you to track not only people that are coming through to your website, but people that maybe have initiated a checkout and have added something to their cart but haven't made a purchase with you, and you've got an opportunity to sort of position your advertising right in front of those people again.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very targeted form of marketing. You know, you're not wasting spend on sort of this might work, and you're, you know, positioning your company straight in front of your desired customer who's got a very high level of intent already, and it's relatively cheap.
Yeah, especially compared to like LinkedIn. Do you think B2B would still work on something like Facebook and Instagram as well?
I mean, this is the thing, you know, the majority of the population have Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, so it depends. You know, I always think there's a multiple-pronged approach to any sort of digital marketing, you know, be it SEO and combined social or email marketing, and, you know, and yeah, it can work. It can work simply because the majority of people do have Facebook and will be on their devices at some point. And even if you're using it as a brand awareness tool, it's a nudge. It's a soft nudge to your desired customer.
Yeah.
That you're there and you're sort of.
So when it comes to like with testing, would you like? It's not a case of just making one advert and turning it on and off. Do you make multiple ones and like split the budget between all of them?
Yeah, I mean, there will always be. It comes down to that. No business is the same, and we might, you know, the same goes for us. You know, we work in the industry ourselves, and we might have an idea of what will work for a client based on previous experience, but the digital space is moving at such a rapid rate. You've got to be testing and restructuring the account and optimizing on pretty much a daily basis to make things work at their best level. So, you know, I don't think we even, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't think we even charge for everything we do for a client. You know, it's because, you know, what the main thing for us is finding out what works. So, yeah, you will have, we might have a traffic advert that's driving new traffic to the website based on their desired details of the desired demographic, and that might be anything from interest to who they follow to their age range to their location, that sort of thing. And then a remarketing advert, we might have various sort of types of sort of advert copy, or, you know, the headline bit that goes right before your sort of call to action button. We might test that based and see which is converting better, or we might test the audience that's going to. Do we send it to people that have added those items to their basket, or do we send them to people that have made a purchase 60 days ago? You know, it's kind of, you know, there's so much scope within that form of advertising.
So what's like I know this is a very, very generic question, but what's like the minimum budget that you think someone should like entertain if they're going to try this sort of thing? So like if they're going like, right, I've got a tenner, I would imagine that's not enough. But like, do you know what I mean? I guess just for anyone watching who's like, oh, I've got a couple of £100 or whatever, is that enough to kind of get the data that they need? Or
I think, you know, to have a well-structured account, you need to have at least, you know, 2 adverts running, and you need to have an advert concentrating on new traffic, and you need to have an advert that's remarketing to that traffic. Now, you know, you can get the most out of your budget if you're driving quality traffic to your site that are likely to get a high point of purchase, so that you can remarket to them. But you can only sometimes remarket to certain audiences or build bigger audiences based on that data what's called lookalike audiences if you've got enough traffic coming in. So it's almost worth doing an initial bulk investment in that new traffic, and then
right, just to get that traffic to then have it to remarket to at a later date. Then
I mean, you can do it gradually, but like in order to have a real kick, a real boost, and that's what we tend to do with clients. But generally, you can start at anything between. I mean, we've had clients start at £150 a month, right to thousands of pounds a month. You know, it's kind of, you can, there is an ability to test a relatively small budget. I think the lowest is probably like 100, 150 to get some quality data and insight. You don't want to be spending much less than that. So, you know, it's again about that quality.
I mean, it's the same with PPC, and it's the same with anything, isn't it? It's like there has to be a baseline, because otherwise, like, you're just going to be, you know, if they go, right, we a tenner a month, and then like, right, paid social doesn't work. You know, I get it all the time, people saying SEO doesn't work, or I've tried it in the past and it doesn't work. It's like, well, you were using GoDaddy's built-in SEO tool for £15 a month or whatever. Of course it wasn't working, but then it's like that education piece for the client as well, of like, you know, I have really, you know, probably longer than I should do, speak to clients where, well, not clients, I say someone rings up, they found me through my freelance site or whatever, and I have really long conversations with them about how realistic they actually are about what they're trying to do. Whereas, like, you know, I know for a fact a lot of consultants would just be like, oh, you got a 50 quid budget, fuck off kind of thing. But it's not that. It's like, you don't know if in 2 years they might, you know, they might be doing really well, and then they're like, well, oh yeah, you know, that guy who was like, took the time to speak to me, and at the same time just want to be nice to people. Like, they have no point of reference, you know. It's like, we got our garden done the other day, I got this quote and I was like, pfft. And then it's like, when you actually speak to people, and, you know, people take the time to break things down where you have no reference point, and it's easy to forget that, you know, like, we speak about this stuff all day, so we know what things cost and what realistic budgets look like. But if you're a plumber or whatever who's never looked at doing anything like this, you don't have a point of reference. So, you know, their mate down the pub might have gone, oh yeah, my cousin does it for 50 quid or whatever. And that's when they ring someone like us and go, yeah, I got 50 quid. Yeah. And then you have to take the time to educate them. But I think it's certainly worth doing that, rather than just going, nah, you've not got budget, because then, like, it doesn't help anyone, does it?
Yeah, because quite often what will happen is you'll, you know, I mean, the majority of paid social advertising pays for itself. You know, and I'm talking like the management fees, the budget, the spend. If you've got a properly set up account with proper tracking, and you've got a strategy that's in line with what they're trying to achieve, the majority of the time, certainly for e-commerce, and the majority of service industries that aren't B2B, on Facebook and Instagram, you can quite quickly make that pay for itself and more. Yeah. You know, you can show, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, we've got a client, he's sort of a high-end tattoo studio he runs. He's from California, set up a load of tattoo parlors across the UK. He also has a very high-end jewelry business. Obviously, with lockdown, he's had to shut the majority of his studios. They can't operate as a business. So all he has now is his online shop, selling high-end jewelry. Now, what initially started as brand awareness for them has completely changed. And, you know, I know you do this as well, James, but you do a bunch of sort of tasks for, you know, quite often for free, just trying to set people up properly. You know, I'd set Guy up with a Facebook pixel so that we could track some of, you know, even just from a brand awareness perspective, track what was happening through his site, through adverts, generally looking at GA, what was going on with his data. And I could see there was an opportunity to sort of sell and to send some remarketing adverts out to those people coming through the site, because he had something like a crazy amount of people, you know, initiating a checkout and not making a purchase. And it's like, well, why aren't they making a purchase? And also, there was just a huge opportunity, and we've, he put in sort of 2 days of my time a month since lockdown on the account and setting up these adverts, and a spend of only sort of £1,000, so relatively low for a business of that size.
Yeah.
But that's times itself by he's quadrupled how much money he was making on his website just from applying that. So not only is my time paying for itself, not only is his advertising spend paying for itself, he's also making that much more on his stuff than he was previously, and that is his only stream of income at the moment. So it feels really good.
I bet it does. I think that's like where that's that. I think I certainly need to be looking into that side of things more, because we do paid media and that sort of stuff. We do management for clients, and that's quite a similar thing. Is that obviously you get an ROI much quicker than on SEO, unless you have, and this is speaking generally, but unless you have like a site that's already quite well established and has authority and has content where, unless we're jumping in to do some quick tweaks and, like just some simple optimization that the site needs, generally you are looking at least a couple of months to get an ROI in SEO, if not, 6 to 12 months, which is often where that hard sell comes from, and why educating the client is so important, because you unless you're targeting something really, really specific, it's going to be very hard to rank number one for your service term within a couple of months, unless you unless you're doing something really dodgy and then you just get a manual penalty and drop off the face of the earth anyway. So suppose it's that thing of like, if you are a business owner, and even for any freelancers watching this, it's kind of having that courage really to put that budget in and test, because like you said, we could talk till we're blue in the face about, speaking in generalities and like what how well someone's going to do, but until you actually put that money in and test, whether it's PPC, paid social, whatever it might be, you don't know, do you? But like you said, you could very easily start to get that money back, especially compared to SEO. I feel like I'm just really shooting myself down here, but it's like, I think the point that I'm trying to get across is you need to test different platforms. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think really from like a baseline, like an overview, I think we've covered everything. If there's anything else you want to kind of get out there, I mean, that was the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about, really, was just to kind of give an overview of what it is that you do and why it's important for businesses, because they might have heard of SEO and PPC before, but UX might not even be a consideration for them. And I think it's something that's hugely important, and especially at a time like this where, like you said, businesses only have their online presence. It's this sort of thing that they need to be looking at, isn't it? So I don't know if there's anything else you have to add to that.
I think you sort of summarised it pretty well. I think like you just said, I think it's easy to think about where you can make cuts at the moment, and completely understand where businesses are having to scale back. But I think the advantage that many businesses have with the likes of yourself and I is that we have come from that agency background. We've got that but we're able to offer more time at a lesser rate with helping companies optimize what they're already doing. It's not necessarily that anyone's doing anything badly, it's how you can enhance it and enhance what they're doing really well, and maybe review what's maybe not working so well. And then if there's an opportunity, if it's the beauty of a UX or conversion rate optimization audit is that we're looking at all manner of things. So not only the health and design and journey through your site, we're also taking into consideration, there's an opportunity here from that channel we can see that organic search isn't, you've got an opportunity with your competitions. We can, and I can call upon someone like yourself and say, hey, this business could really use like a competition analysis to see what maybe their competitors are doing well and where they're doing okay at the moment versus, or it might be, because a number of businesses spend a lot of time on their social media and do a really good job of executing how their social media feeds look, curating those images, the copy, perfecting it. And then you'll see that, the traffic from social media is something like, 100 people a month in comparison to the majority of their traffic, which might be like 10,000 visitors a month. And a lot of companies say to me, why is that? Well, for one, around 2% of people that follow you on Facebook will see your posts in their feed, unless you're doing paid promotions, unless you're looking at paid advertising. So it seems, for a relatively low budget, we can quite quickly turn that social media audience into, sort of customers that are converting on your site. And certainly, with the example of the client I gave you earlier, they've got an Instagram following of something like 35,000 followers, instantly, we could build an Instagram lookalike audience. So people that have a high level of intent to purchase their products or really like their products, and their friends and people with similar digital behaviors, we could quite quickly build that audience, which accelerated what they're already doing well, and brought that audience to their website to convert. So I think, in terms of what we can do, it's optimizing what you're already doing, enhancing that, reviewing what maybe is not working so well, and also helping get your website in front and your business in front of your desired audience to help them convert. But
brilliant. I'll take that as an ad. Cool. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can, we're on Instagram and Facebook and Pura Digital and Pura, or you can contact our email address. That's hello@puradigital.com.
Cool. We'll leave a link in the description anyway for anyone. I'm sure you'll get people getting in touch with you. Because like I said, I think this is, it's often overlooked until, like you said, until you kind of even doing those initial bits for people and they're like, oh my God, what we've been missing out on. So I think it's certainly something that people will be checking out. Cool. So it'd be good to kind of have a catch-up video in a few months or something as well. I know we discussed doing like a workshop or something, so it's like kind of UX and SEO and how they kind of blend together, especially like implications for tech SEO and then how UX can further that as well. So cheers for your time, Rach, and we'll speak to you soon.